What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the second album by country music artist Strait Strait. Basically this project is called Straight from the Heart and it came out in the late spring of 1982. So the thing about this particular project here is I think I've heard the after effects of some Strait songs as far as those first can happen. Don't know super commonly about him, but have heard probably products of some of these within a relative country radio sense. Probably songs like Marina Del Rey, Foolhardy Memory, Amarillo by Morning, some of those type ones that I'd say within the pitch behind it. I want to say that he did the song All My Exes Live in Texas, some of those type fairs within the pitch behind it. I don't know a super common ton of information about him, but I want to get to some more of these type folks to kind of see some of that particular type fair of this throwback kind of 70s, 80s, 60s country, 90s country, some of those particular type fairs. So it's a good type format to kind of get to some of these within these pitch series, some good type stuff. This seems like traditional kind of country. When I look up the Wikipedia article about this, it says that this is neo-traditional country within the pitch behind it. I don't like when you think of neo-traditional, I would think more in the concept of neo-country would be a little bit more disco-oriented with a little bit more groove bounce about it. This is a really kind of just like sunflower seed and kind of more laid-back, kind of like the hay straw in your mouth type country within the pitch behind. It's just a lot more glazed in a sense. This is like traditional, less neo-traditional, just a little bit more just like outback kind of country within the pitch behind it. I look within the tone. It also says that this is countrypolitan, just me questioning if it would be the sort of stuff that, you know, landscape kind of country would kind of be within the pitch behind it. But I just look with it, as far as being able to say, I think this is probably like a forefather to like the style that Tim McGraw was kind of doing or was going to go on to do within some of those type pitches. But I look after here, it's real sunny type aspect, but it's really set back, I'd say, within the pitch. Me judging from behind this, I thought it'd be more like Alabama pitches like that, just in the tone. It seems like by the album cover, you would think that Strait would have a little bit more step out within the pitch. Not to say like this doesn't have it, but it's just more in the concept of it has like this lazy type feel, just without the smokes type factor. Basically, if you were stoned as hell within the pitch, as far as having a lot of smokes in your system, just really seeing things through a red eyes type aspect, and just real and like a transcendent type aspect. It's kind of a transcendent type album, but this it's not so much like bewildered by it as much as like the tone, as far as saying that this is more laid back within a sense of this really kind of set back and just kind of just more within a just the lackadaisicalness about it is just more traditional and like with the standard fare of country, just really kind of like the usual type fare within the pitch behind. So it's just kind of the concept. It's a vanilla country album circa like the early 80s as far as this fair's gonna have. So it's a good type sense. If you're looking for a little bit more of like more step out type within the sense, doesn't have it as full bound, but this is a good type aspect, just like some golden type aspects. So just great between probably like less kind of April, May, June. It seems less like a springtime type album, more of like August, September, October, November within that particular type fare of it. Just golden skies is like the leaves start turning orange and the leaves start turning gold and orange and yellow and this real bright lime green within some of those type pitches just in the tone. So it's just an aspect for like a more simmering type aspect, more so than like the heat of summer. But I look after here, the vast majority of this album I wound up recommending within pitch. Pretty good type fare to kind of get within the sense here. It does have like the aspect and the composition like some standard fare. It's a neighborhood type product within the pitch behind it, but it does it within the aspect of this. Kind of, it has makeshift, but it's just not like a bustling type one within the pitch. So it's just the typical type fashion. Yeah, I'm going to get to work. Yeah, I'm going to get the job done. Yeah, some of these type pitches are going to be handled, but it's just within the tradition, just straightforward. It's probably like when you think of like a typical type cruise, probably just cruise in 35, 40 miles an hour, not much more within a speeding type sense. It's not really, it's just really kind of comfy type pacing within the pitch. So it's just good type tone for that. But some of these singles type here, I would say that some of this does have like a relative kind of malaise about it. There's at least a couple songs, like I would say to a certain extent Foolhardy Memory, but moreover Marina Del Rey and Amarillo by Morning, a little bit more glazed within the fashion behind it, similar to like Shenandoah, some of those type fares within the pitch behind it. So it's a good type aspect here to kind of get. And when I say this is like a golden type album, it has the aspect, it does have the heart, it does have some ruffledness and some discomfort on here as far as this first gonna have, but it's more comfortable than it is just within the tone. It's just kind of the concept that it has discomfort, but it's just kind of within the product of just not being like pissed off or kind of like angry within like a more kind of dismantled sense. It's just a little bit ruffled, just kind of straightforward, but just kind of lazy in the way it has its discomfort. So it's strange about it, but it's dope to have it. So I look after it here. This is an album that AllMusic.com gave a 5 stars out of 5. So it's pretty excellent type pitch. So apparently this is a pretty rave type album within the fare behind it. Makes me question what like folks like Rolling Stone and some of those type folks particularly thought. Some of those particular type fares, Pitchfork, I'd have to say. But looking after here, so yeah, there were 4 singles. Then the pitch behind it, Full Full-Hearted Memories, the lead single, is a good, nice one. I want to say this hit number 1. Like, from what it was saying, this particular song hit number 1 on the country chart. So Full-Hearted Memories, like a simmering kind of diner hop, I'd have to say here, just like a low-key kind of evening, just a low-key kind of evening coffee, I'd have to say about this one in particular. Just some outback kind of afterthought as far as what's first going to happen. So just typical type fare, just local spot of just getting some food or some decent grub within a pitch. Just more, now mind you, this was back in like 1981, 1982 within the pitch behind it, but just the aspect of having some of that particular type fare, just like a local food spot, just to pick up something like a quieter type sense, just some basic kind of kickback, just real relief of just an unwind, but just actually more within, it has like a relative social sense of being out and about, but just kind of more within the sense of just being out in public while dining and pitch like that. Just been done. Just some rumination, but just kind of does it in a more out in public kind of aspect about it. So it's just kind of afterthought within the pitch. It seems like more simmering type aspect within the tone. It's a good type fare for that. Just kind of the pitch of just get some social step out, Bill Payne pitches like that, but just within the concept of just kind of afterthought within the tone. So it's good type fare. Interesting concept for like a lead single. It's good type pitch. Just real, like I said, like a lot of these just have that lazy type fashion, just like the tone behind it. It seems like routine type music that you would hear. Some of these type ones, especially the singles, feel like routine type fare that you would probably hear when going to like diners and more uptown type places within the pitch, where it's going to be more traditional, where you're going to see waitresses and have to leave tips in some of those type places, some of those type pitches within the tone. Those type places that you see in movies when they go uptown, or some of those type fares within it. It's just a good concept for that, but look after it. Traditional, this typical type, vanilla type fashion with like 80s country, I'd say this feels real factory in like the vanilla type banner sense of it. So it's a good type song. Marina Del Rey is a nice one here, a good type pitch. And this is probably one of my more favorite songs on here. The thing about this particular album is there's some ones I prefer to listen to more so than the others. I mean, this is going to get a mostly high score within the pitch behind it, but I look after probably the ones I would listen to in the oftenness. I look after some good type concepts for like some commerce, just in the tradition of just having out and about within a more makeshift kind of blue collar type sense. But within the pitch, as far as saying, considering that there's not a super ton of like step out type songs on here, with the pitch, it's just a little bit more, feels a little bit more dismantled within the concept as far as like Friday, Saturday type fare. I would look within the pitch as far as saying that there's some ones. I do like the moody type factors, songs like Marina Del Rey, Amarillo by Morning, some of these type pitches, but it's kind of the concept that it just is kind of like when you swap some of these out, it's a little bit trickier to kind of go from songs like if you're listening to going from George Strait to like Metallica or something like that, going from Metallica to like the Beatles, going from the Beatles to like Alice in Chains, some of those type pitches. So it's just within the tone as far as saying within the aspect, and the add other genres within some of those type pitches. So it's just kind of the concept that, not to say it doesn't work as full bound, but it's just kind of the pitch that it's not to say full bound these songs don't work, but it's just kind of within the pitch as far as swapping out the mood. Just kind of has the concept. So just a little bit, it's just more hand picking this particular album, I would say, within the fare, considering it's not one complete wholesome, like considering it's not one complete wholesome kind of standard theme within the pitch behind it. So it's just kind of the concept. Some of these moody type ones, I look after here. Full-Hearted Memory is definitely one for just like social step out within it. Full-Hearted Memory is just one for like some quieter type step out, just a good in public kind of rumination. But I'd say Marina Del Rey and Amarillo, definitely say some songs on here like Marina Del Rey, Amarillo by Morning, and like Lover in Disguise. Some of these type ones have a little bit more moody type factor, just a more smoky type sense. So these are some more kind of tinge type ones within the aspect that just have a little bit more than the composition, just like some kind of the spice and not as much makeshift inlays within the balance of it. So Marina Del Rey is a nice one. It's like a moody kind of rainy day makeshift haze kind of get here. Just setback, definitely I'd have to say some extra rumination kind of within the similar fashion of Full-Hearted Memory, just a little bit more in like a traditional kind of makeshift sense, just a little bit more kind of within like a kind of let your heart bleed type aspect of it. Just some jury push kind of get here. To look about this one, this one's a little bit more factory within a sense of typical kind of push of like the day fare behind it, but it's also more catchy within the tone. I feel like Full-Hearted Memory is just a little bit more of like an unwind type one within the pitch, of just getting a little bit more comfortable within the fare behind it. Not quite as much spice of like the aspect of just like a little bit of more kind of personal kind of relatability towards it. But I would have to say that Marina Del Rey just has like that spice of kind of like, say Marina Del Rey just has a little bit more catchiness in terms of the affability of his personality, in terms of the way it makes its songs bleed within the pitch. So it's a good type tone for that one, real catching type one. That is a good aspect for some of that jury type push within the tone. Just something that like Adele would do, some of those type folks, just not, I mean Adele's not country, but just within the pitch, just getting one of those moody type ones, just in the aspect of just kind of something for like to get through like a more bad hair day within the pitch behind. So it's a good type tone. Amarillo by Morning is a nice one. This is the most popular song according to Spotify. Full-Hearted Memory has like 31 million plays, but Amarillo by Morning has like 280 million, so it's a good type pitch for that. It's like a golden kind of countryside. Amarillo by Morning is like a golden kind of countryside sunset gaze kind of get here. Definite good smoke one relief. I'd had to Definitely a great song to smoke one to, I'd have to say here, and some relief after like a day wind as far as this pitch can happen. So it's just within the tone. There are some ones on here. This is pretty similar to Foolhardy Memory within the pitch, but just like it has like the sullenness factor about it, just the concept of Amarillo by Moore, and just a weathered type one, just in the concept of this one just nails the relief a little bit better. I feel like this one is less like a public step out, just kind of like the standard fare, just retire for the day, and just the concept of just figuring out, all right, just the concept of like next moves as far as those aspects going to happen, just the pitch behind. Just kind of some good settle in within the factor after like Amarillo by Moore is just a little bit more smoky kind of settle in within the pitch of just like the relative just Amarillo by Moore is just a little bit more smoky type fashion, like a settle in after the relief of things as far as those first going to happen. So just kind of the concept of work shift. Probably I would say probably for about maybe 6:30, 7 p.m. is like the sun setting pitches like that. Just some good type fare for some of that particular concept. Just getting like a good dinner, something that relative type fare. Typical kind of traditional kind of country stretcher within the pitch behind it. There's definitely one for like some relative kind of commerce within a sense, but just not quite as full bound within it. Just feels more neighborhood, more so than full bound kind of within the outing fare of it. Just more kind of just wrap up within the concept of just like some settle in. So some good type fare, but I would look after just in the tone. Pretty much within the same fashion, that same sort of lays. There's some ones on here, Foolhardy Memory, Amarillo by Morning, Honky Tonk Crazy, some ones like that. I'd probably say there's at least one other one on here I'm thinking of. Like, oh yeah, the fourth single, Fire I Can't Put Out. So it's just from the pitch as far as like that simmering type aspect. Like I said, setback type album within the pitch, and I don't mean setback in terms like a setback like a mistake. I mean it's just setback, like leaning back, like recliner kind of setback within the tone. So it's just in the pitch as far as those fares going to happen. So just good relief type one. But I do feel like the two ones that have the moody type factor, I feel like the personality really has that smoky type appeal with Marina Del Rey and Amarillo by Morton. I'd probably say a Fire I Can't Put Out, the fourth single, is a nice one here as well. It does that relative type pitch. It's like a good Heartland stretch, kind of getting like a neighborhood sense that I'd say here. Goes with Foolhardy Memory. So this is just the concept of this one in a more neighborhood type sense. I don't know George Strait's particular age as far as when he made this particular album. I guess I could look that up. Just to say, George Strait, yeah, he would have been about 30 when this particular album was coming out. So it's just he would have been about 30 when this particular album was coming out. So I don't know his full bound how many snack runs pitches like that, just in terms of neighborhood, grabbing like Chex Mix and Twinkies, some of those type pitches, grabbing like Chex Mix and Twinkies, some of those relative type pitches. So just snack run type fare, just goodies, and some of those aspects of like for smokish type fare. But it's just a good type concept. It's kind of an in-between type fashion, just more in like early 80s type tradition with the more outback type fare within the concept of the way it was back in those particular days. Just a concept for like some relative neighborhood type hop and bop typeness, just to be able to get, but just kind of with that lazy type fashion. So the same sort of fashion as Foolhardy Memory, just not as much diner and more social kind of outing type place in mind within the pitch, but it's just kind of tone as far as saying that just kind of romps within the fare, just like within a relative days type sense. So most of the album, like I was saying, is days, but it's a good type concept. So look after here to basically after just being able to say out of 10 songs on this product, I wound up recommending 8. So the only 2 songs I don't recommend on here would just be I Can't See Texas From Here and then Heartbroke. So both the pitches behind these are just a little bit more up-tempo type ones. I feel like this didn't nail the particular vibe about it as far as those fares going to happen. I feel like that was something that I just didn't see as much convincing in George Strait. I feel like when he has his usual days type fashion where he's just a little bit more laid back, just not to say full bound within the Stone type fashion, but definitely within like the transcended type sense, like I was saying, but just more in like a traditional kind of country, just mellowness within the factor. But just the concept when you get some of these type ones, I feel like the kind of more greaser kind of joint type moments of just like some step out within like a traditional kind of, it just feels more 50s, early 80s type fashion within the fashion, trying to get some of these. Both I Can't See Texas From Here and Heartbroke just didn't nail the particular appeal, trying to have like some spice. I think it just needed a little bit more disco appeal that probably would have suited a little bit better. I think just within the tone as far as him being able to do like these moody type songs, like the smoky type fashion, something like Marina Del Rey and Amarillo by Morning, those being 2 of the best moments on here. I would have said definitely if it would have had like some of that particular kind of smoky, just malaise type fashion, and then just put into like a dance type song with something that could have had like a foot tap or something, not necessarily like a full bound kind of shake your ass dance song, but something that would have been like a nice groove or foot tap or something, just kind of move around with the like a relative draw. So I think that probably would have been a nice distance single to have gotten. But I just feel like the up tempo songs that were attempted on here just didn't nail that particular vibe. So I'm going to give this album like an 8.75 out of 10. Basically out of the tone, 8 out of 10 is basically the concept you would think that would be virtually within it. But because this particular album was enjoyable, I'll give it an 8.75. So just on the cusp of getting like a full, almost like a full bound, lot more of like a knockout type sense. But just to talk about some of these on here. So Honky Tonk Crazy is a nice one within some of these type pitches. Just like another kind of lazy golden setback kind of outing fare to kind of get. It's kind of a town hop and like a sluggish days kind of pacing as far as this fair is going to happen. So pretty much goes along with the Fire I Can't Put Out, same sort of fare within that. It's really lazy type datas from the pitch, just neighborhood strolls and Jones just in the pitch, just maybe paying local bills just on foot, some of those type tones, just within the concept of just going to like a pawn shop, some of those relative type places. If it is kind of in more uptown type places where there's going to be more gravel roads and some of that type fare, just shops more so than like city like bars and places like that, or just more places where it'd be like within the concept of this being a country album, it implies the concept of this just more town and gravel roads, places like that, more so than like the concept of just more kind of bustle, kind of urban type aspects. But it's a good type tone. It's some of that just more town hopping. So the only thing I have left is another nice one within that. It's like a simmering kind of sunset music. This usual relief from makeshift. I'd have to say here, some usual relief from makeshift going. I'd have to say within the pitch behind it, just a slog type song within the pitch. This particular one is just kind of a nice one. This is more traditional kind of country within a sense, something that Jason Aldean would do, some of those type folks, just in a more 1982 type sense of pretty much has the tone of like Foolhardy Memory or Amarillo by Morning or A Fire I Can't Put Out, just not as neighborhood. I'd say this is more Traverse kind of car commerce in mind. I have to say about this one, just more traditional, get bills paid, some of that type fare. It's kind of relief of just commerce within the concept, but just like country, it's kind of the concept of commerce, just more country, probably within the aspect behind it, just usual local type fare, just not, maybe not as neighborhood full bound, but just within just another simmering kind of laid back type sense within the pitch. So it's just the concept of listening to some of this type fare, but just in a more in between type fashion, just getting some stuff done within the fare. So it's a basic concept for that. Probably another upkeep type one. It's probably one of the best songs on this particular album in terms of like the immediacy factor, like some spice about it would be Lover in Disguise. Really appreciate this one. Probably in terms of like the top 3 songs, my favorites on here would probably, and there might be a fourth one, Honky Tonk Crazy within certain aspects, but I would definitely say Marina Del Rey, Amarillo by Morning, and Lover in Disguise are probably the most, the top, the bell of the ball top hat, or probably like the bell of the ball top hat type ones in terms of the immediacy factor of it. That's probably the ones I recommend the full blown most if you're newer to George Strait within some of those type fares. But Lover in Disguise is like a relative pep kind of evening primer for like bar or karaoke. No, Lover in Disguise would be like a relative pep and evening primer for like bar or karaoke night as far as those fares can happen. Just some nice spice kind of get here within some of those type tones. So just the pitch is a little bit more traditional within the sense of like some relative type step out within a relative groove sense of it, a little bit low in a relative groove sense of it, a little bit more in motion within the concept as far as those aspects that just kind of having like a little bit of bounce within a relative type sense. Not like full bound kind of just bust to move, some of that type fare, but just within the concept, just having a little bit cut loose within the concept, but just a little bit like the spice, like some step out. This is not quite as, this is not as quite as tight knit within the tone behind it. It's a little bit more loosened up within the fare. So it's good, nice one, nice relative bounce to that one. Good immediacy factor. And then the Steal of the Night is a nice one here within the relative type sense. It's probably the one that, I mean, this is not quite an almost song. It's just within the pitch of just saying it's just the oftenness of probably this one in particular. It's not as full bound, but it's enough to still warm. It's just kind of the concept. It's just kind of the fare that once again I feel like this is another close one within like the concept of some of these up tempo ones that I didn't recommend. Very similar to I Can't See Texas from Here and Heartbroke within the pitch. I still recommend this one a little bit better than that. So the Steal of the Night's like a setback but decent pep for like a cruise around. I'd have to say in some sunny. It's also like some sunny kind of social steps within the fare behind. So this is just a little bit more 80s kind of 50s and 80s kind of greaser type feel within the pitch behind it. It's kind of almost like a busybody kind of Aaron Day. This has a little bit more liveliness factor. I mean, it's still a relatively set back and lazy, but it's just within the concept. But just for like the compared to most of this album's kind of more glazed type fashion, this is probably one of the ones that has the most kind of like drivenness and just a little bit more bustle within the tone, and just having like some times for like getting some stuff done, or like Aaron's type fare, or just like some busybody type fashion, and having some social commotion. So it's just good type concept. It just feels, I mean, this seeing like the way that this fashion about this song off this album kind of went, it felt like this was more like a dance club type song. The way the pitch, like this was saying, just with the song title being "Steal the Night" and some of those type fares, I really don't see this as like a song you'd listen to at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock p.m. as like things are really getting ferocious. But it definitely feels like a primer for some of that. I'd say probably 4 o'clock p.m. just the concept of just switching up and getting ready to step out a bit and just getting ready for some terms. This is kind of more something that just kind of gets you more motivated to get to like this doesn't have as much full bound kind of feralness to really say that this would be something where it's time to get rowdy within a pitch as far as those fares kind of happen. I think Lover in Disguise just nailed that vibe a little bit better. The concept of it, not to say that it just doesn't have the vibe, it's just kind of concept, just need a little bit something with a little bit more groove within the concept, but just feels stiffer within the aspect as far as trying. I mean, it has the pep of being able to have that concept. It's just kind of the pitch as far as saying that it's just the pitch of this album is really super glazed within the concept. It's just the reality that maybe this may be peppy for George Strait, but it's not. This may be peppy for George Strait, but there is a lot more vicious just in the tone. It's not complaining about that. It's just within the concept. But you'll probably notice that if you listen to more feral type folks within the tone. It's not to say this isn't feral, but just within the concept. But just looking after, so the concept behind it. So yeah, this album gets an 8.75. Look within the pitch. The social score I'll probably get that's a little bit trickier. I'd say I'll probably get the social score like a 7.5 out of 10. I look within the pitch. I mean, it's a good type album within the aspect. Definitely has some huge country songs, like a traditional kind of country album out of the 80s. It's the golden era when you think of 70s, 80s, 60s country. Some of those type fares is one of those highlights. You're gonna hear at diners and uptown type places, pawn shops, and like antique stores. Some of those type fares within the pitch. Not antique stores like he's old, that old, but this is in the pitch as far as probably some of that country type places where you hear some of that. It's kind of the tone, just a very vanilla type aspect within some of that, but the energy factor on this album is just not very ferocious. Just kind of say it, just the glaze type fashion. When you get this dazed type appeal, when you realize that you think that he's stoned, but it's just really the concept that that's just his setback type appeal. He's just a little bit more traditional, like the laid back type fashion. It's just kind of the pitch as far as saying that works for like some good type fair, like some sunny type disc, romps and townhouse within some of that type pitch. But this is a very sluggish type album within the pitch behind it, and the very sluggish type album within the concept as far as saying within the pitch is to get some spice, like some step out. I feel like at least the moody type factor, some of these type ones that have a little bit more like sullenness about them and just kind of have like the more anguish that just works as like a good personal type moments, like Marina Del Rey and Amarillo by Morning definitely work pretty heavily. Lover in Disguise is probably one of the best songs on here. It's not a ton of these moments, just from the concept. Just makes me question what some of his albums later on would be like within the pitch. But some good type fashions just probably just need a little bit more urban type spice within it. Not to say urban, like probably just need a little bit more foot tap type moments on here within the pairs, but it's still pretty excellent type stuff within the pitch. So in terms of the future, not really as full bound. In terms of the future, not really as full bound sure what George Strait's been up to, considering the fact that he's probably been around since the late 70s, early 80s within the pitch, but it's just within the concept as far as saying some excellent type fare here to be able to get a lot of this. It's in the concept. So probably some 80s, 90s albums within some of those type fares, 2000s possibly within the pitch, but he was 30 when this particular album came out, so it's just in the pitch as far as saying, but it's just within the concept, some good type stuff here. Got some good classic hits from him in terms of vanilla country pitches like that. Has some good type moments, good for makeshift, and good lazy kind of town hopping within a relative disc. Really, I would say stoned as hell, but just more traditional, kind of just transcended type sense within the concept, but just works for like a day's type fashion, just being more sluggish and fitting that particular style and nailing it.